Hello everyone, it's Sabrina from the Combe family. Today we are going to talk about something much more serious than previous videos, and that is sexual violence against young girls in Kenya. So I want to preface this by saying I am not trying to talk negatively about Kenya. I live in Kenya and I love Kenya. But coming from a different culture and being raised by someone who was very overprotective because she didn't want anything bad to happen to me, this is something that I see that is definitely an issue in the Kenyan culture. So I wanted to make sure that I made everyone aware of that on my channel so that we can create awareness and make sure that this problem is solved and it improves in Kenya. So I wanted to make sure that I said that in the beginning so that nobody thinks this is just me like talking negative about Kenya. I want to use my YouTube channel as a way to get awareness out to the world of issues that we need to solve in the countries I live in, and that happens to be Kenya currently. So let's go ahead and get started. A lot of the issues surrounding sexual violence with young women here, or young girls, stems from how they were raised. So oftentimes, especially in the village, they are taught to stay in a child's place. So the adults deal with the issues, right? Making sure that there's dinner on the table, making sure that everybody has tuition for school, all of those kind of things that are the adult responsibilities, right? That is handled by the adults that usually stay close to the house. The moms are doing the laundry, washing the dishes. The kids, from morning when they get breakfast, they go out and they just play in the forest in the village or here or there. They know where they can get like fruits off of a tree for snack, etc. So the children don't ever involve themselves in these issues, and that seems to be a problem because these young girls grow up just staying in a child's place, right? So it's almost like they're treated like a little girl, like a 5-year-old little girl, until they reach the age that someone gets them pregnant. And then people around them are like, okay, well, you're an adult now, you're having a baby, and you're just like, how can one day I go from being a child playing in the forest with all of my children friends, and the next day I'm worrying about where money's going to come from to take care of a baby, you know? So that is a huge issue that I see here. They're not ever taught about things that might be uncomfortable to talk about with your children. So they're not taught about sex and where babies come from. They're not taught about rape. They're not taught about people trying to manipulate them or coerce them into having sex when they're not ready, or it's not even someone that they're dating or they want to be with, right? They're not taught about any of those things. So when those things happen to them, they're blindsided. And that is the biggest problem, that they're not educated on these things. So how can they know to protect themselves if nobody teaches them how to protect themselves and what to look for? So that is a huge issue. So I want to go to the next topic that I had here, which is sexual coercion. So let me give you the example story that often happens in Kenya. So a young girl, let's say she's 12, right? She walks to school, and this might be many miles that she has to walk to school every day. I mean, my daughter, who is 9, when she was 5 years old, she would have to walk to school before it even got light outside. So you can only imagine how far they have to walk in order to get to school, right? So she gets her books ready in the morning before it even gets light outside. She starts walking to school. She knows the direction well. She knows what street she walks on, everything, right? So then one day, a motorbike, which here they're called boda bodas, and they give you rides on motorbikes to different locations that are within a certain proximity, right? So this is their job, right? They're like a motorcycle taxi. He stops next to this 12-year-old girl. And he said, "Oh, I see you often walking to school so early. Let me give you a ride." And she's like, I don't have any money for a ride." And he's like, "No, it's okay. You don't have to pay me. It's okay. I was already going that way." So she gets on the motorbike and she gets a free ride to school, right? So then he starts doing this consistently. Oh, it's okay, I was going that way, let me give you another ride. Oh, no, it's fine, right? So he does that for a couple weeks. Then he notices that she is walking home at lunch every day. So often here, the family doesn't have money for lunch so the kid could buy lunch at school, or they don't even have money for like a to-go container so that the kid could bring lunch from home to school. So they often have to walk back home or run most of the time because they have to be back within a certain time frame, hope that somebody made lunch at home and they can eat, and then they have to run back so that they're not late because then they'll get caned, which is another word for beat by their teacher. So then she's walking home to hopefully get lunch at home, and the Boda Boda guy comes back. And he's like, oh, I see that you are going home. You know, you're not even sure if your mom will have lunch prepared for you, right? Because sometimes, like, the family doesn't have money that day, thus they can't make lunch. So she's only hoping that there's food at home for her to eat. He's like, I have food at my house. I could take you to my house and you could prepare food for both of us. And she's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'll get you back at school on time. Everything will be fine. So she's like, okay, because this is a sure thing. She doesn't know if going home there will be food or not. So she goes with him. She cooks whatever, sukumuiki and ugali. She cooks rice, whatever it is. And they eat together. He doesn't ask her for money. He takes her back to school for free. Doesn't charge her for the ride because he knows she doesn't have any money. So he does this for a couple weeks, right? Doesn't ask for anything in return. Then one day she's at his house cooking them lunch, and he says, you should just not go back to school. Let's just hang out and watch a movie. She's like, I don't want to get in trouble. He's like, just this one time, come on. And so she does it. She's like, I owe him. He's fed me. He's given me rides over a month now. He hasn't asked me for anything in return. Let me just stay here with him. So she does. He doesn't ask for anything. He doesn't try to touch her. Doesn't anything, right? So then he continues to ask for that. So for over a week now, she hasn't gone back to school after lunch. So as time progresses, he gets closer and closer to her on the couch, on the bed, whatever they're watching the movie on, right? And so then they're holding each other. And this is a 12-year-old girl and an adult man. So then he starts touching her. And this is progressing very slowly, right? Inching closer to her, inching closer to her every day that they watch a movie together. And then he starts touching her and starts asking her to take off her clothes and coerces her into having sex with him. So then she's kind of indebted to him, right? So she feels like she can't really say no, even though she doesn't want to have sex with this adult man. So she continues to have sex with him because he is feeding her. And sometimes she's not getting food at home. So that is very important and vital to her. And she thinks, if sex is what I have to do in order to get food and a ride to school, then I guess I'll sacrifice that. So this 12-year-old girl gets pregnant. The man is most likely either married or he knows that he's going to get in trouble regardless because this is a 12-year-old girl. So he says, that can't be my baby. And he pretends like he doesn't know her. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is that he just pays off her family so that they don't go to the police. So he raped this young 12-year-old girl multiple times until she got pregnant. Then he just gives the family $100, sometimes less, and everything goes away. That is the case that happens to so many young girls here. And that's why the statistics are so high for teen pregnancy, and even younger than teens. People like to say teen pregnancy, but this pregnancy issue starts at 10 years old and sometimes younger. So let's talk about some statistics here. So the first statistic I have written here is 1 in 5 girls in Kenya have a live birth, which means they give birth to a baby, or they are currently pregnant. 1 in 5. And we're talking about girls under the age of 18. 1 in 5. Isn't that crazy? Okay, let's look at the next statistic. This is a county in Kenya that seems to have proportionately high levels of teen pregnancy. So it's Kakamega County. And the population, the overall population of this county is about 2 million. And of that 2 million, 332,000 are women or girls between the age of 6 and 17. Okay, so the statistic that I wanted you guys to think about is 19,000 girls between the ages of 10 and 18 were impregnated in 2019. 19,000. And I'm not talking about all of Kenya here. I'm talking about a very, very small area of Kenya, which is just one county, Kakamega County. So think about that, how significant that is. In 332,000 girls between the ages of 6 and 17, 19,000 of those between the ages of 10 and 18 became pregnant just in 2019. That is crazy to me. So let's look at our final article here that I wanted to make everyone aware of. I'm going to read straight from the article so that you guys can get all of the information here. It's a very short article. Okay, so this article was written in April 2022, so this year. The Ministry of Health in Kenya says 42,700 cases of teen pregnancies were recorded between January and February this year. So between 2 months, 45,000 teen pregnancies happened. According to Principal Secretary Suzanne Mochache, among those registered, 2,200 were as a result of sexual and gender-based violence, ages between 12 and 17 years. So let's dissect that before I finish. 2,200 were a result of sexual violence and, sexual and gender-based violence. That is some bullshit. Okay, that might be the amount of people that actually said that violence was against them in order for this pregnancy to happen. But I would say that that's probably 1% of the amount that actually had violence associated with becoming pregnant. So there you have it. Besides the fact that we're talking about teen pregnancies here. So very few of these are this boy and this girl about the same age who decided to have sex and didn't realize that they could become pregnant. That's rare. Most of the time, it's a 30, 40, 50-year-old man who targets this young girl that is under the age of 17. Let's continue. Mochache stated that although the numbers were still high, teenage pregnancies have reduced by 26%. So in 2018, there was 427,000 pregnancies in 2018 in Kenya. And that number has reduced to, in year 2021, to 317,000 pregnancies. And they're calling that a win. I understand that it has reduced and by 26%, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of teen pregnancies. So she has said this encouraging performance reflects an increase of 83% in the number of people living with HIV that are on life-saving antiretroviral treatments from 600,000 people in 2013 to 1.2 million people in 2021. So she is talking about how HIV is spreading because of these teen pregnancies and how those two things relate. But back to the topic of how many pregnancies there are. It's just unfathomable how much it just gets pushed to the wayside. Yes, it's talked about much more than any other years prior, and they're trying to make sure that things change, and that's why we see a reduction in the amount of pregnancies. But I don't think that reduction is good enough, and we need to do something more to make sure this doesn't continue happening. You know, I see when I go to the market in different places, older men preying on children that are in primary school, in secondary school, and it's just disgusting to me. And a lot of times people just laugh it off. They don't say like, man, she's a young girl, get away from her. I know of one particular situation. Of course, I'm not going to give any specifics because I don't want to talk about specific people here, but one man that I know of, he got a young girl pregnant and paid off her family. So now he doesn't pay for the kid, he doesn't help support the kid, he doesn't anything. He paid a certain amount of money, I don't know exactly how much, and he was married during that time. He is currently married, and he would bring her to a spot that he had away from his family home and do what he felt like doing and send her on her way. And she got pregnant. So now her family has to deal with the fact that she is a single mother as a young child. And so there are so many stories just like that, and it just breaks my heart. And I think that we need to do more. My way of doing more is telling you guys so that we can spread more awareness, and hopefully people will talk about this more instead of just pushing it under the rug. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about here is a personal story that is very close to my heart that happened within my own family. So one of my young daughters, my daughter who actually grew up here in Kenya, she had been living with us for maybe 2 months, and this was when we still lived in the town very close to our village. My husband was sitting on the bed. This is when we lived in a studio apartment, and I was cooking, and I didn't even have like a dare dress on or anything. I had some shorts on and maybe a sweatshirt or something, so that's very inappropriate to go out of the house like that. And I think I was maybe cooking something. I know I was in the kitchen, and I had heard the girls outside laughing, and I was wondering, like, they were on the side of the house. I heard them, and I was wondering like what they're doing, just like sitting, because I could tell that they were like stagnant, you know, like they weren't like running around playing like they typically do. They were sitting in one place just laughing. And let's go back to the day before. The day before, I heard some music outside, and I was like, Safari, where's that music coming from? And she's like, it's coming from the man's phone. And I was just like, I think like my mind was preoccupied, and I was just like, okay, whatever. You know, I had first thought that she like brought one of our electronics outside and was listening to music that way, and she knows better than to do that. And so I was just like, okay, whatever. And so fast forward to the following day when they're outside laughing. So I had heard them, and I didn't pay so much attention to it at first. And then maybe 30 minutes later, I realized that they're still in the same place laughing, right? I can't see them from our window because like there's no windows on that side of our house, right? So something, just that mom thing inside of me was like, go outside and see what they're doing, right? So I go outside, I come out of our front door, then there's maybe like 4 feet before the corner of our house, right? And so that's when you turn the corner. So I turn the corner, and I see this man who I have never spoke to before, I have never seen before, sitting on the bricks outside. Safari is standing next to him. They're all looking at his phone, laughing, and Georgina is sitting on his lap like this. Yes, straddling him. I flipped the fuck out, if you can imagine. So, by the way, she has a dress on. Maybe, I'm pretty sure she had underwear and shorts on underneath that dress. That's it. So, I was like, what is happening? And then the man, this is the part where I was flipping shit. He knew he was doing something wrong, because when I turn the corner, he pushes Georgina to get off of him. Yes. So I was like, what is happening here? And they were like, oh, nothing, nothing. And he starts walking away right away. So all of these things that you're doing are telling me what you were doing. You were trying to get at one of my children and you got caught. You know, you were trying to play your little games so that you could get what you wanted with my child. You wanted to rape my child. That's what you wanted to do. So I flipped out. Like, I was shaking. I was so mad. And if he wouldn't have walked away, I would have punched him in his face. Like, I am not playing. I've never been more serious in my life. And so he starts walking away, and I was like, you don't ever be around my children ever again. You're fucking disgusting. What is wrong with you? Like, I started going off on him. Who knows what else I said, right? And so then I go back into our room, and I tell Shaha what I just saw. And the girls come inside and they realize, like, we're not playing no more, right? And so I tell Shaha, and he's like taken back, you know, like he doesn't know exactly what to do. And so he's like, do you want me to call the landlord, Kalama? Because apparently he is the one who rented the room out to this man who had just recently moved in within the past week. So this man thought that he was going to coerce one of my children into having sex with him less than a week after he got into town, because he's not from this area, right? So my husband calls Kalama, and we all sit down and have a little chat. I tell Kalama exactly what happened, right? So then, you know, like in the village is kind of like a village vibe, right? So like everybody that lives in the same building. So one of the people, the doctor who lived in the building too, he sat with us and he was listening in on the situation as well, right? So I'm telling Kalama what happened, and he's like, okay, well, that's definitely a problem. Like, I'll probably have to tell him that he needs to move out of here. I'm like, yeah, he's fucking disgusting. And so then, dude that did this, he comes, like, to our little circle conversation and sits down. And at first, he's quiet. So then, like, I start going off on him, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you think that you're going to come here within a week and you're going to do something like this to my child? And at first, he's quiet for a while, and then he's like, you're just racist. That's why. And everybody at this situation started laughing. Like, even Kalama, who is friends with this dude, was just like, dude, like, not the time, like, for your dumb shit, you know, like, you're not making sense. So, like, I was like, are you serious? Like, my husband is black, my children that you did this to are black. What is wrong with you? You know? So I can't even possibly begin to express to you everything I said in this conversation, but I was going off, you know? So people here, they like to keep the peace. I don't care, you know? And they kind of saw the real me in that moment. I wanted to beat him. So we kind of like dispersed this conversation. He keeps trying to talk and say, I wrote a letter. And he has the letter in his hand, right? He's like, I wrote a letter. And he tries to give it to Shaha. Shaha was like, I want your fucking letter. Like, if you want to say something, fucking say it. Like, I don't want the letter. And so he gives it back to him. And he's just saying, like, you should have asked me what I was doing instead of assuming. I'm just like, I know what I saw. So I don't need to ask what you were doing. Having a child, a 9-year-old child, straddling you on your lap, especially when she has a dress on that you don't even know, is wrong. It's wrong, right? So I don't really care what you have to say, right? So because of that situation, he got kicked out of the place that he situated for himself to live in. So he had just come, get this, this is the funniest part. He had just come into town to be a teacher. Yeah, to be a teacher. So he had, I guess, already knew Kalama, and so he situated himself in one of Kalama's apartments. Okay, he got kicked out of his apartment, because of the situation, because we were there first. So if you don't kick him out, we gonna leave. So Kalama decides, and he kicked the dude out. Okay. So then Kalama comes to me because I said in this conversation, I was like, if you don't say that because it's a Kalama school that he was going to work at. I was like, if you don't fire him from your school, then I'm going to make sure I tell everybody that I know in town and in the village to not send their kids to your school because a pedophile works there. And so he comes back to us later on that night and he's like, I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you guys. So I was thinking that like I could fire him after this semester is over so that like it would be a lot easier on me so that I don't have to hire a new teacher in the middle of the semester. I was like, okay, if you knew someone was a pedophile, you saw them do something that was of the pedophile nature, would you let your young child be in class with this person? No. Okay, neither would I. So why should we treat Kenyan children any less? There are Kenyan young girls in his classroom. Why should we allow this pedophile to teach a class with young children, young female children? That is ridiculous. So you want my opinion about what you should do. These are the options. You fire him immediately and he leaves town. And I don't say a word about your school. Or you don't fire him until the end of the semester and I make sure I let everyone I know not to send their kids to your school because pedophiles teach there. So you make that decision. I can't make that decision for you. So needless to say, he got displaced from the apartment that he had lined up and he got fired from his job because he tried to fuck with one of my daughters. So needless to say, we had a long discussion with Georgina because Safari knows better. Should she have said something because she was standing right there? Absolutely. But she knows better than to involve herself in those actions. So did she get in trouble too? Absolutely. But Georgina doesn't know those things because of what I said in the beginning of this video. You're taught, oh, stay in a child's place until something happens to you and then you become pregnant and then, oh, well, now you're an adult and you have to take care of a child. And it's just like, what? You know? So she's never been taught about sex and rape and penis and vulva and vagina. She's never been taught about these things. So now she is taught. We talk about these things on a daily basis. She knows things like that will never happen again. She will never put herself in a position like that again. And she knows because of that one situation. We reference it a lot because we want to make sure that our children are not ever put in a position like that again so that somebody could do that or worse to them. And it's unfortunate that one of my children had to go through that experience, but through that experience, she has learned so much. And this is exactly why I keep an eye on my children at all times. I took my eye off my children for 30 minutes and this happened. So it's not like it can just happen to kids that are neglected. It can happen to any child. A child that is a local Kenyan, a child that is a foreigner. Anyone is susceptible. So this is why we need to make awareness about this topic and how important it is that we protect our young girls in Kenya. So please spread this video, have conversations with your coworkers, with your family members about this, post things on social media about how we need to help our young girls in Kenya and everywhere else in the world to make sure that they are not taken advantage of, to make sure that our young girls get all the opportunities that our young boys get. And their lives are not sacrificed or cut short because some grown man has an urge that moment and gets her pregnant and changes her life forever. It's just disgusting to me and we need to do something about it. So I know this is much more of a serious video than my other videos, but I really wanted to get this information out, and I really hope that you guys will help me spread the word and make this situation better for young girls in Kenya. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!